Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. We are sponsored by Chalkboard, where you simply choose more or less, and your favorite player stats went up to 5,000 times your money. I'm Jim Coventry, and today's show, I will give you my top reaction to the Week 10 action. Great day, fun day. Some of the games were a little lopsided. There's that. Games I won't necessarily cover, but player performances definitely will just mention now. I'm not going to be talking about we'll talk about the Dolphins games. So there's that. But we had some big fantasy performances today. Again, let's just get to them through that lens, and then we'll go. Trey McBride goes up. I won't be talking about that game. All three of the late window games, the winner had 42 to 44 points. That was pretty incredible. Won't be talking about Lions Commanders. Jahmyr Gibbs had himself a day. Rams 49ers, Matthew Stafford did, and Kyron Williams scores twice, but Puka and Adams weren't needed a whole lot. Jackson Smith and Jigba gets his way to 93 yards in a game where Darnold threw the ball 12 times. And I'm not going to talk Jaguars and Texans, one of the craziest games. Every week they're crazy, right? But Texans were losing by 19 at the end of the third quarter, and they win by 7, last-second touchdown. Crazy day. But let's get to our reactions. So we have instant reaction number 1. Jonathan Taylor carries the Colts to a big victory. This was the International Berlin game. Colts 31, Falcons 25 in overtime. So, yes, it was the Jonathan Taylor day. And here's the thing with Atlanta's defense. I know they have all these great metrics. They're the number 1 pass defense, and they're good against the run. They're light. I've said this all along. If you can run downhill at them, you soften them up, and then you can run anywhere you want. But that defense is not set to handle a team that can be physical in the run game. And fantasy numbers per game don't show you that. And that's why fantasy numbers per game are also nice. They're nice, but styles make fights. And so, yes. So Jonathan Taylor, 32 carries, 244, 3 touchdowns. But that's not enough, because he also was a third leading receiver. 3 catches, 44 yards. So 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was one of the fantasy performances we will be remembering for quite some time. Alec Pierce, he has been a real, I've been saying this, part of that offense for quite some time. He was needed in the first half. Wasn't needed much after that. 4 for 84 and a touchdown. I believe all of that, if not most, was in the first half. It was phenomenal that Alec Pierce, another great downfield catch in traffic, 2 defenders near him. He has just become a really good player. Fortunately, the game was close, and Indy had to race for some points. So Tyler Warren caught up some real fantasy production, because it was clear. It was a Taylor game. Early, it was Pierce. So Warren was able to get a lot of those clear out routes, 8 for 99 on 10 targets. Took advantage of that, caught almost everything. But it was the function of that game worked out perfectly for him. But it didn't work out for Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. Pittman, 2 targets, 2 for 19. Josh Downs, 1 for 3 on 2 targets. But again, you score 31 points. Jonathan Taylor's the engine. There wasn't a whole lot left. The second half receiving was almost all Tyler Warren. Again, it's just the way that it shook out, and it was what was open for Daniel Jones. Because Daniel Jones was at times under pressure. And you're seeing it. They're winning games. Give them credit. They didn't win last week, but give them credit. Daniel Jones is still putting up nice enough numbers. He ran for 53 yards this one. Give him credit. But the cracks are starting to show. And defense, more films out, and teams that can send pressure. And if, like Pittsburgh, if they contain Jonathan Taylor and do that, it'll be a long day for Daniel Jones. So just be careful. For fantasy, you're still kind of seeing him as that borderline quarterback 1, quarterback 2. But it's starting to become apparent some of the issues he had. I still think he'll be okay. I think this offense has enough talent that could paper over some of Jones' deficiencies. Jones did lose another fumble, threw an interception in this one. But again, they hang on to beat the Falcons. The Falcons, man, that Michael Penix accuracy stuff, right? 12 for 28. Couple drops, who cares? 12 for 28. Anthony Richardson is better than that. from a completion percentage standpoint. Yeah, 12 to 28 is pretty brutal. Even with the drops in there, I don't think he hit 50%, with the drops. So that was just really bad. This is the two-man show, and it's been. But here's the problem. Bijan Robinson doesn't get in the end zone. This game, Bijan Robinson not used much as a receiver, 2 for 4. So a 17 for 84 from an NFL standpoint is great. It's a good game. You love 17 for 84. But for fantasy, wow. Well, there's 3 games in a row now. Bijan Robinson is averaging you 12 PPR points over the last 3 games. It's been rough. It's not horrible, but you were getting elite production for like the first 5 games. And hopefully that snaps back. There's nothing wrong with Bijan Robinson, but this offense is just so limited. And Drake London only he gets 8 targets. He gets 10 to 15. There are games with Penix, but of course he made the most. It wasn't a shadow job by Sauce Gardner. There were the plays he was on, but a lot of plays they moved London in the slot, somebody else. It was on a different side. He saw somebody else, and they handled him well. Drake London, 6 for $104 and a touchdown. And if you think about that, Penix throws for 177 and a touchdown, 104 and one of that go to Drake London. So we've said it for weeks. This offense is centered around Bijan and Drake London. And that's smart for fantasy. We love that. Kyle Pitts, he had a great opportunity for a catch and run that could have gone a long way. Dropped it. So 2 for 38, 5 targets. Uncle Ted made a disparaging comment about Darnell Mooney. Yeah, Darnell Mooney, 1 for 17. He had at least 1 drop in this one. 8 targets. He had as many targets as Drake London. I get it. You can't just throw every pass to Drake London. But, man, this team, and Mooney was good last year until he got hurt. But, man, this team could really use a number 2 receiver. But they also could use a quarterback that could complete 50% of his passes. All right, Dabble isn't just another DFS app. Is the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this football season. Starting with Dabble's easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble now. All right, we get the instant reaction number 2. Drake Maye outduels Baker Mayfield. Patriots 28. Buccaneers 23. Buccaneers scored a late touchdown, make it look a little closer than it was. But the story of the game, Travion Henderson, 2 long touchdown runs. He arrived. 14 carries, not a ton, but he got 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. 55-yard touchdown, 69-yard touchdown. 2 great runs. Really, really excited for the young man. Terrell Jennings got dinged up in this game. He got 4 carries for 5 yards. Dearness Johnson got 1 carry. But I don't know what Ramondre Stevens' toe injury status is going forward. But I hope Henderson did enough here where the coaching staff says, all right, we don't really want you handling 20 touches a game, but we do want to make it a lead back. Let's hope they go that route. I think the young man proved enough at this point that the Buccaneers, we know, is not an easy run defense, and getting to the outside was smart, and that's where Henderson took it. But you don't throw any shade on him. He made the plays. Teams have been running against them for a while, so there's definitely that. Drake Maye gets enough done. Funny thing is, Kyle Williams, 72-yard touchdown on the sideline. He had 2 targets. Kayshon Boutte's out with a hamstring. So between Kyle Williams and Mac Hollins, they both kind of take on the downfield role. But Hollins leads the team with 10 targets. Weird player because he makes plays his whole career. I mean, I can't remember the times when he's in Philly, in Miami. It's like the dude's in the end zone, like way more than his opportunities show. I didn't score in this one, 6 for 106, but Mac Hollins often used the block a lot. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a practice thing, but I'm a little surprised that Mac Hollins has never gotten a consistent role on a team in the NFL. I just felt like the guy makes plays. And I know there's a lot more to it. And he's a great blocker. Maybe there are just limitations to his game that teams don't want to deal with. But to think that all these teams that have some garbage receivers, to think that people long-term never had a role for Mac Hollins. I mean, how many teams has this guy been on? I mean, top of my head, 7? That's a guess. Probably. It just never made sense. But the guy could play football. Stephon Diggs, it's been weird. He scored touchdowns 3 straight weeks, 5 for 46. That was his biggest game in 3 weeks. So right now he's a touchdown dependent flex. He had those 200-yard games. That was over a month ago. So time's flying by on that. Hunter Henry, 1 for 9 on 4 targets. He hasn't been fantasy relevant about a month now. And so at this point, he'll have a game or two here or there. But I think that ship has kind of sailed on Hunter Henry. So if there are plenty of options out there, probably go with one of those. I'll do my waiver wire video tonight. It'll be that'll drop tomorrow morning. I will put it on my X page at Jim Coventry NFL. It usually goes live by 10 a.m. Eastern. Obviously, I don't do the Sunday night game players. There's some players that pop that won't be on that video, just so you understand that. Tampa Bay side of the ball. Well, at least Baker had his first good fantasy performance in 3 weeks, 3 games, 273 and 3 touchdowns. But here's the thing. Baker Mayfield, the first 3 games, he was running for at least 33 yards in every game. I don't think he's had 20 yards in a game since. He stopped running. And it's crazy because last year, remember how much his legs made a big difference for Tampa? I almost wonder when they started getting wide receiver injuries, McMillan's been out all year and Godwin's been hurt. I almost wonder if Mayfield is not running as much because he doesn't want to get hurt, knowing that if he goes down, the team's stuck. I wonder if that's the thing because it abruptly stopped and it has not resurfaced since. That running all last year in the first 3 games, that was a big part of his game. So his fantasy value has taken a dip because those rushing yards were valuable he was getting. But he did throw 3 touchdowns. Of course, Tez Johnson, only 5 targets, 4 for 42. He scores 2 touchdowns. Young man's spark plug, and he has great chemistry with Baker Mayfield. Mayfield looks for a little guy in the red zone, and he has been coming up aces. It's been great for him. So Tez Johnson, again, limited volume, but, he's that upside flex play we talk about that, he's getting used in the red zone. There's a lot of value there. Emeka Egbuka. We talked about this on the Start Sit show today that I said, he didn't miss any time after the hamstring. He came back, played 2 games, but I have to think his hamstring wasn't right, and his production was low in those 2 games. But I thought he'd come back roaring today. I thought that week off would really help him, like 13 days, right? And it sure did. 13 targets, only caught 6, getting a lot of attention defensively, but 115 and a touchdown. Yeah, so Emeka Egbuka looking great. So good. So at this point now, we did have the 3 down weeks due to injury. We had the great start to the season. We had a lot of games that were touchdown dependent. I'm thinking of raking him around wide receiver 18 with weekly flexibility, depending on matchup and things. He doesn't have a lot of help, but man, he hasn't needed a whole lot of help. So there's definitely been that. The running back game was a split. Rachaad White, 10 for 38. Sean Tucker, 9 for 53. Rachaad White didn't have a run of longer than 7 yards. Tucker did have an 18-yard run to the outside. But is Bucky Irving coming back? You have to think it's got to be close, but he hasn't practiced. So I don't know what the deal with him is, but that's been very troubling for fantasy managers. But Rachaad White, 5 catches for 16 yards. So if you used Rachaad White, you got 54 scrimmage yards, 5 catches. Wasn't what you wanted, but it got into that double-digit range. K. Dotton, the last few games with the receiver injuries, he has been more targeted. 12 targets, 1 behind Emeka Egbuka, 9 for 82. So again, while they're without Godwin, which is going to be the end of the month, maybe December, without Mike Evans, that's going to be in the late December, if at all. So I think at this point, we start moving K. Dotton pretty well up those rankings because unless it's a game we think Tampa's going to be in a low scoring, there aren't many of those, though. So I think we're pretty excited about that. But yeah, nonetheless, good fantasy day for Baker Mayfield. But the Patriots, 8-2 on the season. This is a big win for them. They had a super easy schedule. This was not an easy game. They were playing a 6-2 Bucs team that fell to 6-3. They were playing on the road. There was some rain for a little while out there. Ball was a little slick. Drake Maye did enough to get things going. So hats off to him, and hats off to Travion Henderson, who had the big game. But coaching-wise, they got it done. Sketchy play at the end of the first half. Vrabel on first down at the goal line has him had just dropped to the ground to waste time, so they had to burn their timeouts. It ended up they went all the way to 4th down. They didn't score, and on 4th down, they were lucky. They got past the Diggs in the corner of the end zone, but Vrabel could have really hurt them by being cute with the clock. Scored the points, dude. Scored the points. I get it, you're smart, but don't out genius yourself. We always say that, and that's a thing. All right, so weekly draft fantasy football is here. Welcome to Draft Battle, the only fantasy football platform where the draft is king. What's the best part about playing fantasy football? The draft. So why do we only draft at the beginning of the season? At Draft Battle, you can enter snake draft contests every week, all season long. The best part is you get $100 bonus cash right now at sign up with the promo code ROTOWIRE. You heard that right, $100 bonus cash with the promo code ROTOWIRE. Draft Battle contestants last 1 week only and have no season-long commitment, no salary caps, better odds, 8 teams per contest with a best ball format, which means no roster management. We love that. Plus super flex scoring and weekly payouts. Injuries derail your season-long league. Stay in the game all season long with Draft Battle. High stakes weekly draft fantasy football. Bonus cash. Cash is non-withdrawable. Must be 18 plus in President select states. 19 plus in Nebraska. Visit draftbattle.com for details. Instant reaction number 3. The Dolphins stun the Bills. Dolphins 30, the Bills 13. The Bills did not score a point through 3 quarters of this game. I knew the temperature was 86 in Miami. All these games, and I really didn't get pay attention to what the weather impact was. But there's been some of these hot games in Miami have been an issue for Buffalo. You'd think in November it was going to be that. Maybe that was part, but divisional battles, say it all the time. Don't like to play division battles in Survivor. Division, all games are crazy, but division battles are really crazy. And it was no contest. So again, I said the Bills were shut out through 3 quarters. By the way, Dalton Kincaid had a hamstring injury in that game and left early. So 2 catches for 37 yards. We have to keep an eye on that status, but don't know if this is going to cost him time, but that was not good. James Cook was kind of game scripted out. 13 carries, 53 yards, but they were trailing pretty much the whole game. So game scripted out. As a receiver, James Cook, 5 catches for 24 yards. So he got you 77 yards. You got your 5 catches. So it got you into the 12 PPR range, which again, not what you wanted, but you can live with that. At least those 5 catches were very helpful. Khalil Shakir, 7 for 58, was the leading receiver on 9 targets. If anybody started Keon Coleman, fortunately for you, he did get a 35-yard touchdown. So there was that. But it was 3 for 46. But he has, since week 1, he really hasn't had a good game. If you started him, it was a real leap of faith. But if it worked out, it worked out. So that was good for him because everybody foresaw the Bills getting smoked. Here's the thing. Why do you draft Josh Allen? Because in a game the Bills get blown out, he still does it for fantasy. This is the perfect thing with now draft quarterbacks early. But the people who do, I get it when I see this. If you're just looking like the box score, you think 30 to 30. At one point, you're looking at shutout. And you're like, oh, man, Josh Allen's doomed. No, 306, 2 touchdowns, runs for 31 yards. That's a good fantasy day. That's a really good fantasy day. He had 1 interception in there. He did lose a fumble. But again, that's a floor game. In a game they get blown out, his floor is like as good as, what any other quarterback on a good day does. So, yeah, Josh Allen, it really is amazing to see the digits he puts up for fantasy. The Miami side, I'll say it 3 times. Devon Achane, and Devon Achane. 2 touchdowns. 174 yards on 22 carries. To my knowledge, it was like 3 really long runs. That's not enough. So the third, Devon Achane, 6 catches for 51 yards. So he puts up 225 scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 catches. If it wasn't for Jonathan Taylor, Achane would have probably had the best day of them all. Incredible performance by Devon Achane. And we know the Bills' run defense isn't good, but what, they really got to worry about Tua? Not so much. So it's a little. Achane is so ridiculously good because teams know who are they going to beat you with. And yet Devon Achane almost every week gives you good fantasy production. Bad offensive line. They have no power running game at all. Achane has to get to the outside, but teams know that. Doesn't matter. He gets it done. So, and now 2 straight years, Achane stayed healthy. And you know my report on the injuries last year to running backs. I thought it was a trend. I thought it was not an anomaly. And Achane, Kyron Williams, players, they've stayed healthy again on another year. And these were players that, we had concerns about, but they have stayed really, really healthy. Like I said, some running backs will twist their ankle, pull a hamstring. Those things will happen. But these running backs, lighter linebackers, two of them on the field, 70 to 75% of the time, two linebackers on the field. So these running backs aren't taking kill shots. Jalen Waddle, other than that game against Cleveland where it was the defense overwhelmed, the weather was a little bit of an issue. That was the only game in like the last 5 where Waddle hasn't gotten you around 15 PPR points. 5 for 84 and a touchdown, caught a nice long touchdown this one. Tua didn't underthrow too badly. It was very, very mildly underthrown. Waddle had to turn back a little bit, but he was able to haul it in. So we won't even call that. We'll be nice to Tua. We won't call that an underthrow. Tua did throw the 2 touchdowns, one Waddle and one to Malik Washington, who had 9 yards, but only 173 yards and 2 picks for Tua. So again, really hard. Tua's a super flex, nervous play because he can implode at any time. But again, Dolphins 30, they moved to 3-7. The Bills moved to 6-3. That is really interesting as well because now the Colts are sitting like at 8-2. And that's crazy because, the Bills beat the Chiefs and they're probably thinking home field. Well, we'll see what the Colts do. I know the Colts got to play Kansas City. We'll see how that schedule shakes out. But really, really interesting there. We are going to go over more of this week's reactions after we take a short break. All right, instant reaction number 4. The Rams and the 49ers account for 68 points. Yes, you heard it, 68 points. Rams score 42. 49ers scored 26. All 3 games in the late window were this game was competitive. The 49ers for a while were within a touchdown, but the Rams just kept scoring. They played that Thursday night game a while back. Remember, we had that great game where the 49ers pulled that one out and won it. But this was different. The Rams coming off that loss when they played them last time. The injuries for the 49ers keep piling up, and the Rams took care of business. And the funny thing is, like Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua did not have to have monster games. Adams led with 8 targets. Puka only had 6. They were in control of the game. They ran 30 times. They passed 36. They spread the ball out to their pass catchers. I think they tried a lot of things, get their tight ends involved. Higbee with 3 targets. Terrence Ferguson with 4. Parkinson with 5. Oh, sounds like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, man, throwing 12 targets to their tight ends, 14 to their big 2 receivers. Davis Allen had 2 targets, actually, too. So 4 tight ends were involved. But, again, Adams 77 in a touchdown. Nacua 64 in a touchdown. Works. Not the ceiling game, but for Adams, that's about right. Adam, they're just getting better. Stafford, 280 and 4 touchdowns. Took 1 sack. Matthew Stafford, again, no running ability. Doesn't matter. He just shreds every week. As long as Nacua and Adams are healthy, I really am hard pressed to think there's a defense that can slow him down. He is playing at that level he played in 2021 when they won the Super Bowl. That's the Matthew Stafford you're seeing right now. And like I said, the complementary weapons of Adams and Nacua. And then Kyren Williams and Blake Corum almost split the work down the middle. 13 carries for Corum, 14 for Kyren. Now that got closer when the game was late, and it was clearly a win by the Rams, because it was really closer for a while. But so Williams 14 for 73, but he scores 2 touchdowns. So again, Williams continues to get it done for fantasy. I put him in that running back 11 to 15 bucket every week, knowing if he gets in the end zone, he's gold. But if he doesn't get in the end zone, not a huge factor in the passing game, 2 for 11. But again, it's great to see the Rams firing on all cylinders. This team is going to be fun. The defense, it's the Kyle Shanahan thing. You'd think that the Rams would do better against this version of the Niners with Mac Jones at quarterback. You would think it'd be better, and really limitations at the wide receiver position. But Shanahan knows how to leverage and get the players open against that Rams defense. And so here it was. Remember when Kendrick Bourne goes 10 for $142 last time? Well, people asked the Start Sit show today, and wisely asked, is Bourne going to have that game again? No, Jennings missed that game, and Jennings was going to walk into the lead role. Now it was 9 targets. It was 6 for 71, a touchdown. And George Kittle, I can't remember if Kittle played in that game, and that might have been the goose egg he had. That may have been the goose egg when he was blocking a lot. But Kittle got a lot of his late. He equaled Jennings with 9 targets, 9 for 84 and a touchdown. So finally, that first big game Kittle's had all year. He had a couple games with touchdowns that were decent, but he finally had that big signature performance that you were waiting for. So hopefully that's a beginning of things to come. McCaffrey, as a runner, 12 for 30. The Rams did a great job of slowing him down, but he caught 8 for 66. So again, 96 yards, 8 catches, 17.6 PPR points. Not bad. Didn't find the end zone. Brian Robinson scored a touchdown. They could have gotten McCaffrey a touchdown, but I guess at the end of the day, what do you do about that, right? So yeah, so there's that. But Mac Jones played. They were behind, and like I said, Shanahan knows how to attack that defense. So he goes 33 for 39. I mean, think about it. 33 for 39. What a completion percentage. 319, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. But again, the 49ers would get within 7 a couple times, but it never really was where they were going to be able to get over the hump because the Rams just kept scoring. But the 49ers, 6-4. Their schedule is still relatively easy. We'll see how they can do it. If they can hold on and get a wild card spot, they wouldn't make it long in the playoffs because that defense, you can only do so much with all that missing talent, but that is a bit of a problem. All right, cash in on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Choose more or less on your favorite players. That's to win up to 5,000 times your money for a limited time only. New players receive a free pick and 100% deposit match. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today's your chance to win up to $40,000 in a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use the promo code ROTONFL, that's ROTONFL, to claim your free pick and 100% deposit match now. All right, we got instant reaction. Number 5, Tyler Shough is efficient in an upset win against the Panthers. It was 2 out of 3 on the bets this week. I do them on the Bookies Plus show every Thursday. Those are always, again, they're always on my my X account pinned. But the one I lost was the Cleveland one. Of course, you never bet Cleveland. I mean, I said I'm the biggest idiot in the world. Cleveland gives up a punt return touchdown, a kick return touchdown, and of course they don't cover. But the other 2 I was pretty happy about. I love the Saints plus 5.5. I did not like the Panthers coming off a win. I think the Panthers are not a good football team. They've happened into some nice wins. They're 5-5. Give them credit. They were at home. I just did not see them after beating Green Bay coming back. And the Saints are scrappy. The Saints play good enough defense. They're not great, but they're good offensively. We're not excited about Tyler Shough, but they have enough pass catchers like between Olave and Juwan Johnson, and Alvin Kamara showed up. We're telling everybody to drop him because he was not scoring more than 6 PPR points in a game for 3 weeks, and then you got that going on. And the Saints were playing a Panthers defense that's emerging. They're not a good team, but they've had weeks. They've limited some running backs. Well, Kamara, of course, goes 22 for 83, chips in 3 for 32, by far his best game in a while. So if you started him, you were happy with that. But really, Chris Olave only needed 8 targets, caught a 62-yard touchdown. Defender grabbed his one hand. He one-handed it, broke loose, ran in for a touchdown. 5 for $104 and a touchdown. Juwan Johnson, next highest target, only 4. But he caught them all for 92 and a touchdown, had a catch and run for 52 early in the game, was able to dive and get over the end zone line for a touchdown late. I think it was a 30-yard play there. So the volume isn't quite what I wanted, but remember, the Saints are playing with the lead. So they ran 37 times and they only passed 28. So normally it's the opposite for the Saints. So I to think in a game that they were leading, that Olave and Juwan Johnson both got in, Olave got one of the 16 – they both got about close to 20 PPR points, or right about the 20-point range, both of them. That was amazing. So Tyler Shough, again, the reason I thought he'd do okay here is Carolina really doesn't get pressure. And that was huge. If Shough doesn't get pressure, he can do some things. So that said, I will be a little more concerned when they face pressure. But again, target-wise, Olave and Juwan Johnson should continue to eat. Other side, I hate to keep throwing shade on Bryce Young, but 124 yards. 124 yards and an interception. Wow. He has one game over 200 yards all season. In the last 2 weeks, he has a total of 226 yards. So what is that averaging? 113 yards in the last 2 games. You got to win. So you give him that. Make him the Super Bowl champion because you got to win. I know somebody's arguing with me because last week J.J. McCarthy got to win. Okay, great. Well, it's nice, but didn't mean you won the game. But I said, Ted McMillan, he gets you another floor game, 5 for 60 on 8 targets. Had a nice 26-yard gain. I think it was a 3rd and long, but he keeps getting dragged down by his quarterback. Look, 124 yards, and half of those almost within 2 yards went to Ted McMillan. So fortunately, he's getting that. Rico Dowdle, game script didn't really help him. They ran 18 times. They threw 25. They didn't have long possessions. 18 for 53. He did score a touchdown. So Rico Dowdle gets you in there. Chuba Hubbard, you're only keeping him as a handcuff now. 3 carries for 14. 2 of those carries at least were late. 1 catch for 1 yard. So at this point, it is the Rico Dowdle show. All right, everybody, we get a ton of start-sit questions every week, and RotoWire's update our start-sit tool that you can use for free. Put in the players that you want, ask about, and the tool spits out the best player using RotoWire's consensus rankings for the weeks. The tool's free on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, non-game days. The 2 game days, you need a subscription. For that, if you use the code YouTube15, go to rotowire.com, pick up a subscription, gets you 15% off, and it'll be all set there. Thanks to our sponsor, Chalkboard, where you simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats, went up to 5,000 times your money. And thanks to everyone for listening. Come back next week for another edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast.